Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Eric Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you the best of LA, where we share really cool local businesses here in the Los Angeles area and how you can find them. And I've got a treat today. One of my fellow colleagues and networkers, Ahnjel Ali, Optimal Wellness, is going to tell us all about the world of health and her business. And as you can see behind her, a book that she has written as well. So Ahnjel, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me. It is very nice to be here.
So go ahead.
Thank you. The name of my business is Ali Optimal Wellness. My name is Ahnjel Ali, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist herbalist. I have had my license for 30 years. There were not many acupuncturists when I got my license, and now there's lots of us, which is really great to see. So it's a very, very nice business to be in because I get to help people with their problems and really undo those problems because of herbs. I'm actually standing right here in my herb room. I custom make herbal formulas for my patients, and I have over 300 individual herbs. So I have to know how these work because I custom blend. I don't grab formulas already made up on a shelf and hand them to my patients. And every single one of these herbs can do somewhere between 5 and 10 different things. So it's a lot to know. And I absolutely love it. And I, continue to study my herbs. I study Western research on herbs, which is absolutely amazing because when I got into this field, there wasn't Western research on herbs. And now you can find so many different benefits of the herbs, based on, their phytochemicals. And that's how scientific research knows what all of these herbs do and all those different functions. So it's really a great time to be an acupuncturist and herbalist.
That's amazing. So tell me a bit how the process works. I know any viewer is going to look and see that wall and think, wow, that's really cool. And tell me more.
Okay. So just like any other health office, they fill out a intake form that gives me the history of what's going on, what has happened in their past with their health, surgeries, medications they're on. And of course, it lets me know what they're seeing me for. So we start with that, and then I talk to the patient about that, back and forth. And if there's any questions I still have that weren't answered, or if I need more details, I just continue talking to my patient about that. And then I'm able to, with a testing system that I have, figure out what's going on in their body and test for specifically which herbs are going to help the person in front of me. Because, okay, let's take COVID as an example. So COVID is something that we have all been living with for several years at this point. And while two different people may get COVID, that doesn't mean their bodies react the exact same way. It depends on what is already going on in their body health-wise. But we do know COVID sets off a huge array of inflammatory proteins. So what I have to find out with my testing system is how this person's body reacted to COVID and what it's doing in this person's body. And the herbs that are going to help this person may not be the same herbs that are going to help this person, because everybody is different. So it's just about going through that process and being able to figure out what's going on with the person sitting in front of me and testing which herbs are going to help that person.
That's great. And what, out of curiosity, you'd mentioned with your breadth of experience, what got you started? Why did you decide to dive into this field?
So I was originally a professional dancer, and I loved it. I got really good jobs. I've traveled the world. It was very nice. And then came the point I said, I'm done, because it's a field where you are not treated well because you are replaceable like that. So as hard as you work, you are replaceable like that. And we were always treated like we were stupid because we could count to 8 and people thought that was all we could do. So, came the point I got tired of that. And I said, I'm going to do something else. And I immediately thought of going into sports medicine because I love the human body and I wanted to learn more and I wanted to be able to help people. But my very next thought was, oh, well, wait a minute, sports medicine, that means I'm probably going to be prescribing medications, and I don't like medications at all. And I would probably be rehabbing people in the same fashion from one person to the next. So my very next thought was, I'm going to go to acupuncture college. I can help people naturally. I'll use herbs, I'll use acupuncture. And so off I went.
So, well, not only that, as we can see behind you with your herbs, you've also got a mostly vegan cookbook. So tell us a bit about how these things tie together.
So they tie together really well. So what I first came out with is it's called Mostly Vegan, the science behind why you should eat more veggies. And then the Mostly Vegan cookbook is the companion book. So these came about because my practice, I already did talk a little bit about the herbs, and I already did talk about how I, read scientific research on herbs. Well, I really like reading scientific research and scientific studies. So in doing that with the herbs, of course, there's also scientific research on foods and all the phytonutrients in foods and what they do for you and how they can help you. So in all these years, I was always talking to my patients about their diet, because patients with chronic problems, you always have to talk to them about their diet, because if they have a chronic problem, sure as heck, they're feeding that problem with what they're eating or what they're taking. And that is why the problem continues to exist. So all these years, I have spent time talking to my patients about what to eat to help themselves and what not to eat at the same time. Because I don't ever want to try to make somebody dependent on me. That's not my goal in my practice. My practice is to educate my patients about what they can do for themselves to help themselves, because they only come in here once every 3 to 4 weeks. And then they take the herbs, which is also going to change those problems. So it's important for me that they know what to eat. So then that next step was just, after talking to patients for so many years about their foods and doing more research about foods, also, the way I take care of myself, the way I brought up my boys, it was just a very easy step to just put it all in a book to help people. So this is a way, both of these books, but especially this one, and it references over 400 scientific studies. So this is a way that people can gain a very good understanding about their health and what goes into creating their health or creating their disease. And it really is a good book that goes through step by step by step, so that you will understand very clearly how what you're eating makes a difference. It talks about things like emulsifiers, which are in foods. It talks about, fast food a little bit as well. And of course, a lot of people that are listening to this are going to go, well, of course, fast food is bad for you, but do you know why it's bad for you? Do you know what it does to you? Do you know what emulsifiers do to you? Do you know why they're so bad? Why they contribute to irritable bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel disease or colitis? It talks a lot about the digestive disorders that so many gastroenterologists see. And yet this is really interesting. A lot of gastroenterologists have noticed that in their clientele, there's a high incidence rate of depression, anxiety, and insomnia. Well, that's because what goes on in your digestive tract does affect your brain chemistry. And when you have overgrowth of unhealthy organisms in your intestinal tract, and those are organisms that are causing what is called irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, those change your brain chemistry. And that's how those people end up developing depression, anxiety, insomnia.
So it's out of curiosity, especially with the title, I know I'm interested, which means someone else might be interested as well. Mostly vegan. So what do you mean?
So mostly vegan. And you can make that something that works in your life for you, right? Because I think of everything as being variables. And, by the time we're adults, I think it's great to look at all the different elements you want in your life. Do you work out? When do you work out? How does that work with your work hours? What do you eat? How much do you eat? All these are variables, and you want to make it work out for your life. So when it comes to being vegan, a lot of people are vegan for many, many years. And there are actually people who are vegan that then end up with health problems. So at that point, it's really hard for somebody. I went through this. Okay. So after being vegan for a number of years, I actually got severely anemic. I'm one of those persons who absolutely needs vitamin B12 and not from a supplement, because the supplements weren't doing it at that point. So that was a really hard decision for me to make, because I really liked being vegan. I had consciously made choices to be vegan, but now it was actually causing a health problem. And I didn't foresee that happening, of course, and I didn't want to be in that situation. So it was a very hard decision to make, to not be vegan anymore. And I think, and I know other people who were vegan and end up with health problems after years. So it is called mostly vegan because if your diet is mostly vegan, but you have some animal protein, you actually can be extremely healthy. And some people's bodies really do need that vitamin B12 that you only get from animal sources.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So then as far as variables, you can, somebody can choose, do they want to be vegan every single day? Do they want to have just one meal a day that's not vegan. Are they going to go vegan for 1 week and not vegan for the week after and alternate? It's those variables. And for any particular person, they get to make it work out the best it's going to work in their life.
That's great. This seems to coincide a little bit with your interest in sharing this with the kind of your clientele and the greater population. It seems to blend with the research that you've wanted to do, all this background into the scientific study. And so I'm curious what you've seen over the course of the past several years, 10 years and beyond. What are you seeing of trends that have changed, things that are going to be coming in the next several years? And I know I'm curious.
So one of the biggest trends is there's a lot more autoimmune diseases than there used to be. So now there are over 100 autoimmune diseases that are listed. So 100 different types, over 100 different types. And a lot more people are developing autoimmune problems. So when people develop autoimmune problems, it's really because somebody's body has had a health problem for a long period of time, so a few years, and the immune system has not been able to effectively get rid of that problem. So then at a point, the immune system starts getting confused and starts attacking self-tissue. And that is what an autoimmune problem is. And those are definitely on the rise. They have been on the rise for the last 40 years. And that correlates completely with the foods that people are eating and the foods that are now available, fast foods or foods that you just run into a store and pick up, etc. And all the preservatives that are in foods. It just, that's not a surprise. So that's definitely a trend. And part of that is also, so I'm going to talk about COVID once again, because we were in COVID for a few years. We're still in COVID. And the problem with COVID is that it has set off a lot of autoimmune problems for people. So it has set off autoimmune problems for people who never had an autoimmune problem. And for the people who already had autoimmune problems, it makes them worse. And people get even more autoimmune problems, which is actually, studies too have proven that people who get autoimmune problems, they don't have one autoimmune problem. They usually develop 2 others. So they end up with at least 3 because it's the immune system, unhinged. And it's going around attacking self-tissue. So once that, I think of it as a switch. And once that switch has gone on, there's no rules on it, right? The rules, those guardrails that were there to regulate the immune system are no longer there. And that always comes down to, or often comes down to, what's going on in the digestive tract. In fact, I talk a lot about autoimmune diseases in my book, Mostly Vegan.
I found more and more people that I talk to, and my profession obviously is very different than yours, but more people are interested, I think, in homeopathic or Eastern style healing, where it's more about healing an issue and living a healthy lifestyle instead of just putting a Band-Aid on fixing a problem. And so everything that you've shared, I really appreciate, because I find as an additional trend, there's more interest in this as a concept and as a lifestyle. So for everyone that is listening, I'm going to include all of Ahnjel's contact information here on screen. So you'll have phone number, website, ways to connect on social media. If you have any questions or would like to reach out or learn more, if you'd like to buy the book, if you'd like a consultation, I highly recommend that you connect with Ali Optimal Wellness. Ahnjel, I always love to kind of leave with, is there one last thing that you think the viewers should absolutely know about optimal wellness or about the profession? Anything that you'd like to share?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Eric. So yes, I'm an herbalist, but I'm also a licensed acupuncturist. I do acupuncture at my clinic. My books are available on Amazon. And if you mention that you saw this video, I will give you a $20 discount off your first visit.
That's fantastic. Everybody, as always, this is Erik Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you cool businesses like Ahnjel's here in the Los Angeles and the Beverly Hills area. Stay tuned for the next time when we get to connect with other businesses and what they have to share for you so you can take advantage of them. This is Ahnjel and Erik signing off.